I guess the thing is that it's okay to have a voice and a great voice, and some of us are blessed with great voices and some with not so great voices. But the key, the voice is about 25%, maybe about 25% of the character is your voice. The rest of it is your acting ability. So if you're going to be a performer, like a voiceover performer, you have to learn how to act, because voice acting is the purest form of acting there is.
Yep.
And I'll explain why. When you see a cartoon on the screen, you're seeing the end product. What happens with us is we go into a studio and we record the voices. And when we record the voices, we put everything into the voice, because the animator listens to your voice and then draws the character around that. And just like real life, characters have, cartoon characters have physical and emotional limitations. Like if you see a guy, a character with a long, thin, reedy neck and a tiny mouth, he's not going to sound like this. He's going to sound something a little tight and a little squeaky, a little what we call reedy, because there are physical limitations. He has to live within that reality, right? And so even though it's a cartoon, it's still a real world. And people who watch that show will watch it, and if you're giving a bad performance, then they will say, wow, that sucks. I mean, the voice is great, but I don't believe that character. Even though it's in an unreal situation, it's still real in that world. I mean, it's a philosophical thing. I don't want to bore you with all of that, but it's absolutely true. So if you want to be a good voiceover performer that can span right away across, you have to be a really good, solid actor, because your geographical, physical, emotional, and intellectual intent. By that I mean your emotions, if you're going to be emotional, it has to be clear. If you're in a big space or tied up in a chair, that has to be clear in your voice. If you're if you're running down the street or lying on a bed, that has to be clear. Now I'll give you an example. It's an example I always use, and there's two fellas. Okay, here's their storyboard. There's two fellas. They're sitting here on a bunk in a prison cell. There's a window. It's just out of reach, out to the outside. They hear hammering and banging going on outside. So one says to the other, as they're sitting there, gee, I wonder what's going on out there. Now, that's one scenario. Now, in this scenario, the fella sitting beside him gets up, walks over to the wall, leaps up, grabs the window, looks out to see a gallows hanging outside. So he goes, gee, I wonder what's going on out there.
It's for you.
Sorry, yeah. You see what the difference is?
Yeah.
So you have to put all of that stuff into your voice, which means you have to be really, really good readers. I don't know, how many people read here? Like read. And how many can read out loud? Excellent. Because your ability, it's also your ability to get that stuff that's on the page off the page and make it come alive right away. Because though you may have 1 or 2 days rehearsal, or 1 or 2 days to look at it, there's no rehearsal.
And sometimes you don't have 1 or 2 days.
No, sometimes you get it in 5 minutes.
You get there, and I have one director who doesn't like to do table reads. In fact, that's Sue Blue, who's doing Ben 10 right now. She doesn't like to do a table read. Often you get in, you go through the script, so you get an idea of what's happening. She doesn't like that. She wants spontaneity.
Yep.
She wants it to come off the page and live immediately. So you get the script, You walk in the studio and you start doing takes. And often the first take is gold. Sometimes you got to do pickups here and there. But it all comes from learning how to take the word off the page and make it live, you know. Does anybody have any questions about anything we've said so far? Does anything make sense?
Are we putting you to sleep?